All right, we're doing some more workbook practice today with the level 2 workbook. Today might be a shorter one. We've been having some long live streams recently. This one might be a little shorter, which maybe is nice. Today we are doing another irregular verb. We're doing the lil irregular. So this is verbs that end on a lil pachim. That means there's a lil at the bottom of the word. These are verbs like salda, alda, nolda, etc. These verbs that have a lil at the bottom are irregular verbs, and they do have some irregular conjugations you need to know about. And this irregular conjugation happens all the time. It's a really, really common one, so it's a good one to know. Hello, welcome. So these first couple, looks like I've done them before in the past, but we'll just go over them again. So essentially what this lil irregular is if you have a verb ending in a lil pachim, and then you add on a conjugation starting with either nien, shiet, or biep, then the lil disappears. It just goes away. Question, is this book 2? Yes, this is book 2. This is the level 2 workbook today. So the only grammar form that we've learned up until this point that activates the lil irregular is this nin-got form, which is what we're going to practice in this lesson. But there are lots of other grammar forms that do interact and cause this change to happen. For example, for shiet, you have like the seo form. If you've heard people say like, mande seo is like please make something, that also activates this form. Biep, you have like the imnida form. The honorific form also does this as well. So even though in this chapter we're just practicing it with nin-got, because that's all that we've learned up until now, there are other ones that make it occur as well. So anyway, if the verb ends in a lil pachim and you're adding a conjugation, which starts with nien, shiet, or biep, the lil disappears. Let's see how this happens. So let's start with some conjugation practice. This first, attach nin-got to the following verbs. Now nin-got we learnt in level 1. That is the plus ing form. That is what you add to turn a noun into an ing form. So salda, when you add nin-got, this verb salda means to live. So sa nin-got is living. You add ing to the end and it becomes living. But notice how the lil has gone away, right? This is the lil irregular. Salda has become sa nin-got. This lil just disappears. That's because we have this nien starting the conjugation, which causes the lil to disappear. Another example here is alda. Alda means to know. When you add nin-got, it becomes knowing. We add the ing, it becomes knowing. And again, see how this lil is gone. It disappears because we have this nien following the conjugation, causing this lil to disappear. It just becomes nin-got. You don't say nin-got, you just say nin-got. So this is living, this is knowing. This verb here, nolda, means to play. To play, and when you add nin-got, you can see the trend here, it becomes no nin-got. The lil at the bottom just disappears, and this is playing. Alright, let's see some more examples. Mandelda. Mandelda, what happens when you add nin-got to it? Have a go yourself, have a think, what happens? What does this verb become? If this verb here means to make. So how do you say making using nin-got? What does it become? Have a think in your head, see if you can figure it out. It's the same sort of process we've had before. Desiree, beautiful, perfect. It becomes man, de, nin, got. The lil goes away. What's the difference between chida and nolda? That's a good question. So chida is used for things that you play with your hands. So 치다 is like I play guitar, I play tennis, those sorts of things. Whereas 놀다 is like I play on the playground, or like I play with my friends, that kind of thing. So two different kind of usages of the word play. 만드는 것 means living. And then this one, 열다. Does anyone know what this verb 열다 means? 열다. Why 는 것 and not 는 게? That's also an excellent question. They mean the same thing. 는 것 is just a little bit more formal, a little bit more appropriate in writing. 는 게 is also correct. It's just a bit more casual, more common in spoken language. This is, of course, you guys got it right. It means to open. To open. And this becomes 여는 것. Or as someone mentioned, you could also say 여는 게. 여는 게 is also correct. It's just the more casual spoken version of 는 것. And lucky last, 울다. Does anyone know what this verb means? 울다. It's fairly common. Something that people do. To cry. Desiree, yes. 울다 means to cry. It is another irregular verb, and it becomes 우는 것. That means crying. And this one is opening. All right. D means making and living. D means, oh, sorry. I don't know why I wrote living there. That should be making. Good catch. My mistake there. 만드는 것 is making. 사는 것, this one here, is living. Okay. So let's try using this 는 것 thing in some sentences. So we're going to make some sentences using this irregular and 는 것. The first one is, I like making pizza. So this requires you to remember this 는 것 chapter, which we learned in level 1. So we're going to have to revisit that knowledge. I'll give a little bit of an intro sort of when we get into it. I like making pizza. Well, the first thing we do is we're talking about ourselves, so we can start with 저는. I'm going to put this in brackets though, because you don't need to use it. It's optional. 저는. So we're going to start, remember that in Korean you always go subject, object, verb. So we have our subject, 저는. Now we need our object. The object is pizza. Pizza in Korean is just 피자. 피자, and it is the object, so we need the object particle, 피자를. Now, making. Making in Korean we had up here, right? Making is this one right here. 만드는 것. 만드는 것. This comes from the verb 만들다, which is the base form of the verb, plus 는 것. And because of this irregular conjugation, the lir disappears. So, I pizza making like. Now, there's a couple of different ways to say that you like doing something. We're going to use the action verb 만드는 것을 좋아해요. That means you like making pizza. I pizza making like. I like making pizza. Now, we have two object particles here, but that's okay. You can do that. It is allowed. It's not wrong. That is allowed. Pizza here is the object of the verb 만들다, and this noun here is the object of the verb 좋아하다. So that is possible. B. Making bread is fun. Making bread is fun. Well, we need our the word for bread, which is 빵. 빵 is bread, and then we're talking about making bread. So we're going to have our making verb again. Making. Can there be two subject markers? 는 two. Yes, you can have two topic markers, two 는 particle markers in a sentence. It is possible. 빵을 만드는 것. That's making, right? Bread making. Manden got. Now, be careful of the particle to use here. The particle we use here, which one do we need? Be careful about this because it depends on this final verb. This final verb here, fun, is a descriptive verb. It is not an action. Fun is not an action, it's a description of something. So because it's a descriptive verb, here we need the subject particle. This is different from the sentence above, right? Because choahada is an action verb. The active liking of something uses the object particle. Choahada uses the object particle. But the verb to be fun, which is 재미있다 or 재미있어요 in the present tense, is a descriptive verb and it uses the subject particle. Desiree, beautiful, perfect sentence. 빵을 만드는 것이 재미있어요. Making bread is fun. C. Living in Korea is cheap. How would we say this? Living in Korea is cheap. Okay, so how do you say, we'll start with this noun Korea first. Korea is 한국. Now, which particle do we need here? In level 1, we learned that we can use the air particle or the air-sol particle with the verb 살다, to live. We covered that in level 1. We can choose. I'm not going to use air-sol. But you can use air if you like. 한국에서, in Korea, living. Living is our next part. And living is 사는 것. This one up here. 사는 것. 한국에 사는 것. Now, which particle do we need? Again, we have this descriptive verb, cheap. Cheap is a descriptive verb, so we add the subject particle. 한국에서 사는 것이 싸요. 싸요 is cheap, inexpensive. Now, this sentence depends where you are, obviously. I would say living in Seoul is quite expensive, but other parts of Korea, if you're living in the countryside, it probably is quite cheap, but it depends what part of Korea you're talking about. But the sentence living in Korea is cheap. 한국에서 사는 것이 싸요. Next, living in Korea is expensive. So this is probably appropriate if you're living in Seoul. I know Seoul can be a very expensive place to live. How would we say that living in Korea is expensive? Well, this first part is the same. 한국에서. Or again, you could say 한국에 if you like. You can use both with 살다 to talk about living. It's kind of a special case, but usually you can't use both particles, 에 and 에서. 살다 is kind of a special case. We have like a note about it at the bottom here as well. 한국에서 사는 것이. Right, we need the subject particle again because expensive is also a description, right? It's not an action. And the verb to be expensive, I can see your lovely sunshine wrote it down, beautiful, thank you, is 비싸요. 비싸요 is to be expensive. So 한국에서 사는 것이 비싸요 is expensive. Next one, crying is awkward. Crying is awkward. I certainly feel that way personally. Crying is usually always awkward, but that's just life. So how would we say that? Crying is awkward. Well, we know the verb to cry is 울다. 울다. So how do we make the word crying? How do we make the word crying? That's where we add our 는 것. And because 울다 ends in a lir, it's an irregular verb, so it becomes 우는 것. 우는 것 is crying. What does 것 mean here? So it's a little interesting actually. In Korean, this word 것 literally means thing. So when you add 는 것 to something, this 는 is technically a present tense modifying form. I don't know if this is going to make this easier or harder for you, but I'm going to explain it anyway because you asked. So 것 means thing, and 는 is the present tense modifying form. So literally, 우는 것 is crying thing. The crying thing, the thing about crying, the crying thing, this is what this literally is. This is the living thing, this is the making thing. That's literally what it is in Korean when you add got to something. So the crying thing is awkward. 우는 것, how would we say it is awkward? Desiree, beautiful, perfect. 우는 것, we need to add this subject particle, right? Because awkward is a description, it's not an action. 어색하다, yes. 어색하다 is also defined. We have a little vocab list in the bottom, but it's probably too small to see in this live stream. But we do put some vocab at the bottom to help you out. To be awkward is 어색하다. 어색하다, which becomes 어색해요 in the present tense. 우는 것이 어색해요. Crying is awkward. If opening up my heart is not easy. So this sounds like a complicated sentence, right? But it actually follows the same principles, and we can make this sentence with the knowledge that we have. So the first part we need to know is the heart part. What is heart in Korean? Actually, this whole part, opening up my heart, has been defined in the vocab. So we can just use this. To open up your heart is 마음을 열다. Literally, heart is 마음 and 열다 is to open. So to open your heart, 마음을 열다, right? This is an irregular verb. We need to say opening up my heart. We need to add 는 것, so it becomes 여는 것. That is opening. That is opening. Oh, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate you. 마음을 여는 것. Now, which particle do we need here? Look at this final verb. This final verb will tell you. It's the easy, or isn't easy. This is a description. It's a description, so we need this subject particle. You could also use the topic particle if you like, but it cannot be the object particle. 마음을 여는 것이. Now there's a couple ways to say isn't easy. This requires you to use another piece of knowledge from level 1. To say that something isn't something is there's two ways to do it. You can say Lucy, yes. You can say 쉽지 않아요. This is a good one. I'm going to go with this. 쉽지 않아요. There's another way to do it as well. 안, yes. I see someone saying 안. You could also say 안 쉬워요. 쉬워요. 안 쉬워요. It is not easy. 쉽다 is a 비읍 irregular verb. We covered 비읍 irregular verbs earlier in this book. It becomes 쉬워요. So 마음을 여는 것이 쉽지 않아요 or 안 쉬워요. It isn't easy. This is a tricky one, but it uses all the knowledge that we have and puts it all together. So it's a good question to do. Is this level 2? Yes, this is indeed level 2 workbook that we're working on right now. This is what the cover is like, if you want to see it. Okay, and lucky last, playing outside is important. Playing outside is important. Okay, so we've been given the word 박, which means outside, 박. And you just started level 1. Great, amazing. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. Thank you so much. So 박 means outside. Now, which particle do we need here? Well, we learned in level 1 that if you're doing an action in a place, you use the 에서 particle, which is the, hi Shira, we're learning about the real irregular. We're learning about the real irregular. So we learned in level 1 that if you're doing an action in a place, you use the 에서 particle. And this is what we're doing here, right? We're playing outside. We're doing an action of playing in the outside. So we should use 에서. 밖에서. So we've got our place here. Now we need the action of playing. Playing uses the verb 놀다. 놀다 ends in allele, so it is a real irregular. So to say playing, we attach 는 것, right? And because this real irregular always happens when you add a conjugation starting with either nian, shit, or biet. So because 는 것 starts with a nian, this lil disappears. That's what happens with the lil irregular. So 놀다 becomes 노는 것. Becomes 노는 것. So now we have outside, playing. The last piece we need is the word important, which is 중요하다. 중요하다 means to be important. It is a descriptive verb. It is a description, so we need the subject particle. 노는 것이 중요해요. 밖에서 노는 것이 중요해요. Playing outside is important. I'm sorry, could you explain it for a sec? Yes, let's do a quick recap on what the lil irregular is. So this is an irregular conjugation that happens to all verbs that end in a lil. So all of these verbs, for example, 살다, 알다, 놀다, 만들다, 열다, 울다, all these verbs undergo an irregular conjugation. And this irregular conjugation only happens in 3 circumstances. And it only happens when you're conjugating it with either a nian, a shiat, or a biop. So if you're adding a conjugation that starts with one of these 3 consonants, what happens is the lil at the bottom disappears. It just goes away. So 살다 becomes 사는 것. 알다 becomes 아는 것. This is when you attach 는 것, because 는 것 starts with a nian. Because it starts with a nian. Now this is not the only grammar form that causes this change to occur. Other ones are things like the seo form and the 합니다 form. They also do it as well. But here we're just practicing 는 것 because it's the only one that we've learned up until this point. Okay. So that is a summary of the lil irregular. Now we have a challenge question. Have a think about this. Up for a challenge, translate the expression 아는 것이 힘이에요 into English. 아는 것이 힘이에요. Now this requires you to know a couple things. I will tell you that this noun 힘 means strength or power. And yes, park is outside. 공원 is park. Park just means outside. 공원 means park. So have a think, what do you think this means? 아는 것이 힘이에요. Yes, good job. Desiree, Lucy. It means knowledge is power. Literally it says knowing is strength or knowing is power. But this is a very common expression, the same expression we use in English, that knowledge is power. I think my pen is running out. Knowledge is power. So how does it mean that? First we have 아는 것. This is the verb 알다, to know, plus 는 것. So 아는 것 becomes the noun knowing. Knowing is strength, yes. So 아는 것 is knowing, and then 힘 is a noun meaning strength, and then 이에요 means it is, or I am. So knowing strength it is literally what this means. It's a common Korean expression that uses grammar that we've learned up until this point, so it's quite interesting. I think I struggle in changing these sentences to a better English sentence. Yeah, it's always tricky for us when we're making this book. We are native English speakers. Sometimes it's tricky knowing what English to put, because sometimes you want it to line up with the Korean so people can see, where you get from place to place. But sometimes the English that we have isn't maybe the most natural way, or you might think of other ways you'd prefer to say it. It's just one of those tricky things about languages. Translating is so hard. What is the direct translation for 는 것? The direct translation for 는 것 is the doing thing. So literally, 것 means thing, and this 는 means doing, the present tense. So 우는 것 literally is the crying thing. And 노는 것 is literally the playing thing. I don't know if that helps you, but that's literally, if you go down to the very basics of building blocks, that's literally what it means. Obviously, you would never say that, but that's literally what it means. My English is good. Thank you. All right. So this is an introduction to the real irregular. And then we have some multiple choice questions, and then that's the end of this chapter. So it's a pretty short chapter, but let's look at this section here for the last multiple choice. A, the real irregular conjugation takes place when a verb ending in real is conjugated with a grammar form starting with either nien, biep, or shit. Is that true or false? Question, do we have a digital version of this book, these books? Yes, we do. We do sell PDFs, so if you prefer to have a digital version, that is an option. 잘 먹는 것이 중요해요. Beautiful, good sentence. That means eating well is important. I agree, definitely. And yes, the answer here is that it is true. This is the basic rule of the real irregular. When you attach a verb ending in real with a conjugation starting with either nien, biep, or shit, this is when the real irregular takes place. What is the name of this book? This is the Level 2 workbook. The Level 2 workbook is the name of this book. All right. B, when a verb ending in real is conjugated with a grammar form starting with either nien, biep, or shit, the real disappears. Is that true or false? This is also true, right? We've seen this in the previous page. When you add a conjugation with nien, biep, or shit, that's things like 는 것, 합니다, 세요, things like that, the real disappears. It's true. Okay, now this one's a little tricky. The word 사는 것 means 1. Buying, from the verb 사다, 2. Living, from the word 살다, or is it either buying or living? It's a little bit tricky. Have a think about this one for a second. What does 사는 것 mean? Is it buying? Is it living? Or can it be either? Right, correct. It can be either. Without context, it's impossible to know, because 사다, very simply, when you conjugate with 는 것, it becomes 사는 것, right? Very simply. But 살다 also becomes 사는 것 because of this real irregular conjugation. The real goes away. So they are the same, even though they come from different verbs. So in order to tell if it's buying or living, you'll have to look at the full sentence. Usually it will be clear from context which it means. Question, which book is best for beginners? If you are a beginner, I recommend starting with the textbook. This is the textbook right here. All of these workbooks are designed to work with the textbook. But if you start with the textbook, start with the introduction, start with learning the alphabet, the Korean language, this is the first step. Okay. Now question D. When nominalized with the 는 것 grammar form, the verb 만들다, which means to make, becomes 1. 만드는 것, or 2. 만드는 것. Is the real verb ending regular so the real always disappears? Yes. The real always disappears, yes. Number 2. Correct. Good job, everybody. I see you writing that in. Good job. It is 만드는 것. And that means making. The real disappears. But be careful, Shiro, it only happens when it's a nien, biep, or shit. That's when this irregular happens. So, tying into this, next question. E. When conjugated with the G anta form, this means not or don't. The verb 힘들다, this verb means to be hard or difficult. The verb 힘들다 becomes 1. 힘들지 않아요, or 2. 힘들지 않아요. What does 힘들다, this is a real irregular verb, right? It ends with a real, so it's an irregular verb. But what does it become when you add G anta? Right, good job. I see you putting in the correct answers. It is number 1, right? Because this jiet is not a nian, biep, or shiet. It's something else, so the lil stays there, it does not go away. You still have 힘들지 않아요. Yeah, Shira, perfect. Exactly. All right. So that is the end of the lil irregular chapter. It was a nice short one today. Also, just a final reminder that we only practice using nungot in this chapter, but this irregular change happens all the time. You'll see it happen very often, and there's all sorts of grammar forms in Korean that start with nian, shiet, and biep that this can happen with. So keep that in mind. Thank you, Tiff. Okay, so next time we are going to be looking at another irregular verb, the irregular. So if you want to come back next Tuesday, I'll be doing another irregular lesson. This one is also a very useful one that happens all the time, so it's a good one to know. And just a recap as well over the irregular. This is what we studied in today's lesson. If you want to go back and watch this live stream later, you are most welcome. I will upload it onto YouTube. On YouTube, you can find all my previous live streams, so you can watch them there. Question, are there other irregular forms, not the lil? Yes. There are lots of irregular verbs like the digit irregular and the biep irregular that we've had before. What time are the live streams? The live streams are at 5 p.m. Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays I do level 1 and Tuesdays I do level 2. Kent Chon-chan, what about ko isoyo? Isn't that similar to doing something? So this is a common question I get. And I can see the confusion, right? Because they both involve adding ing to things, but they have a different grammatical purpose. So ko isoyo is the present progressive tense. So that's things that you are in the progress of doing. So that's like, if you want to say a sentence like, I am studying, or I am exercising, or lately I'm going to the gym, those all use ko isoyo. That's the present progressive tense. Nungot is used in a different type of sentence. You use nungot when you're saying things like, exercising is fun, or cooking is difficult, or walking is important. Those sentences use nungot. So even though in English they both involve adding ing to things, they are different sentences in Korean. They use different grammar. We do the ko isoyo form later in this book, actually, so we do sort of focus on that a little bit later on. But it's a very common question. I hope that answers it. Thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you. Yeah, if you're looking for us on YouTube, just search for Goose Apple Books, and you'll find us there. You'll find the old live streams there as well. And this is the cover one last time. You guys can see this cover as well. 감사합니다. Thank you, everybody. Also, just a little final note, this book is available if you're interested in it. There are other books available in this series. We have the level 1, obviously, which I've been doing in on Mondays. That's a little easier. And we also have level 3, if this is too easy for you, if you want more of a challenge. We also have level 3, and we have level 4 coming out this month. This book 4 is getting really close to being done. We are in proofreading and final checking stages for book 4, so that's coming out very soon. In the meantime, though, book 2 is what I used today. Book 2, so you can check this out on TikTok Shop. It's available on Amazon. Again, if you have a preference for ebooks or PDFs, we do sell PDFs as well. So you can do a PDF version if you prefer. Yes, book 4. Yes, I'm excited about book 4. It's a good one. Looking forward to it. So, okay, but that brings us to the end of the live stream for today. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to see you next time. I'll see you next time for the irregular. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye. 다음에 봐요. See you next time.